Honorée Corder, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Patrick O'Donnell, what's up?
It's always so good to have you here. I always learn something new, and I think my listeners learn something new. And you're such an energetic person, and you're positive, and I think that's what the world needs right now. So thank you.
Yes, now you've put that song in my head. What the world, everyone's singing, but you know what song?
Some of the
The love
audience will
song.
know that, some of them
Yes,
won't, but I do, damn it. So
yes.
there's no such thing as writer's block, but you can unlock your inner prolific writer. Yeah, those are great. That's such a great title.
Thank you.
I remember when we first started talking about this when you were at cop camp with me,
Yeah.
and you're like, yeah, I'm working on this book, and you said, it's like there's no such thing as writer's block, and I'm like, holy shit, this kicks ass. It's like this is a hot button for writers for how long? And is it real? Isn't it real? But a lot of people will talk about it, but a lot of people don't have solutions to it. And what I like about you is you're offering solutions and maybe a couple of different ways of looking at it. So I
Yeah.
think that's very important for us writers. you know, there's no such thing as writer's block. I just, again, I love the title. And maybe more important is the subtitle. You can unlock your prolific writer. That's a big promise. Was that daunting to you when you like dreamt this up or you came up with this?
No, because I feel like I have the street cred.
Oh, you sure do. Yeah, I
I feel
mean,
like I have the street cred to make a big promise and then get people to the other side of that promise.
well,
That
you've
was my
published
commitment.
what, over 50, 60 books?
Yep. Yep. I
Oh,
think this is 61.
wow, that's amazing. So,
Yeah.
where did you get the inspiration or the idea for this book?
From every podcast that I've been on where the question was asked me, do you believe in writer's block?
Oh, okay.
And so I thought, well, if it's a question people are asking, then obviously it's a problem. It's a thing. It's a problem. And my answer was always, well, yes and no. I believe it exists for some people. I don't have it. I don't want it. Please don't give it to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think everyone needs or anyone needs to have it. I think that there is a way to unlock your inner prolific writer by changing your beliefs, your behaviors, and your structure and engineering circumstances so that you can write on
Okay.
command. So there's a lot to unpack there, but
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
my belief system. And then I would have conversations with people and they would say, but but, right?
Correct.
Everybody's got a butt. Some people have big butts, right? so, so I was always like, but if you maybe look at it this way, or you try this, and I would have wonderful conversations where people would reach back out to me and say, I look at it this way now, or I tried this thing, or I changed my belief about it. And now I'm writing prolifically. I'm writing effortlessly. I'm writing as easily as I breathe. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
And
We're
I
we're
don't
gonna
have a book for everybody.
we're
All
gonna
writers.
we're gonna unpack that a little bit later. But why
Yeah.
write this book now? Is there any specific reason?
It was in the queue. It was on my list of books to write. I write from a schedule. I decide way in advance what book I'm writing. And I just stay in the
O-
schedule, on the
Okay.
schedule.
So
Yeah.
how do you decide the order of your books? You have published, like we just said, like over 60 books now. What's the strategy behind it?
You know what? Not what I would recommend people do necessarily. I write from a production schedule. I,
Okay.
I have so many ideas. And I am blessed to say that. I'm not arrogant in my saying of that. I'm blessed to say that for several years, and I write about this in the book, for several years, I thought I was done writing nonfiction. I was only working on collaborative projects or
Yeah.
on projects where people would hire me. I
Hmm.
thought I was out of ideas. I thought I've written everything that I want to write in nonfiction. Someday I'm going to write fiction. But I thought, oh, I have a block. It turns out I was creatively blocked because of stress, which I write about in the book.
Mm,
That's not
okay.
the same as writer's block, because if I had something to write, I could write it. I just wasn't inspired. Inspiration comes from within. I was not inspired to write something because I was going through things in my personal life that did not feed my I didn't have enough creative juices left over after all the other juices were gone, if that makes
Right.
sense. And so once I got through that, the ideas started to flow again. And I went, aha, I never said I had writer's block. I just said I didn't have any ideas. I wasn't creative.
Okay. So do you have like a specific, you said that you have like a roadmap or a plan, as far as like how many books you're going to publish, maybe a year. Do you go by a year? Do you go by 5 years? Do you have like a 5-year plan? Do you have a 1-year plan? Do you have a 6-month plan? What does that look like?
My plan starts around October. Putting together my plan starts
Okay.
in this month that we're recording this. So October of 2023, I will sit down and say, okay, what are the books that I want to write? And so now I'm fiction and nonfiction. So I have like
Ooh.
3 more projects. I have 3 more nonfiction projects to tie up and get ready to publish. And then I'm working on a fiction book. So relatively soon, within about 2 weeks, I will be writing fiction every morning. I'm very excited about it. So I have the November book, November 23, and then I have 2 in February of 2024 that are related. And so those are the last 2 nonfiction books that will come before fiction. And then I am now working on, I had another idea, and now I have another nonfiction book to put in the queue. So I sit down and just say, how long does it take me to, how many words is this book going to be approximately? How long does it take me to do that? I do a production schedule for each book. And then I book my team so that I can't wiggle out of it. So I tell my editor, you're going to get a book on this date and I need it back on that date. And I have my proofreader and my graphic designer, right? So I'm like, I book all the kids on the bench. So they're like, where's your book, mama?
No pressure, no pressure.
So like, and with the book I just turned in day before yesterday, my editor 3 weeks ago said, are we still on schedule? And I don't miss a date. And I lied. I was like, yeah, we're doing great. I'm totally on schedule. And then I really had to get to that fork in the road and make sure that I was on time, which is a different conversation, but important still.
Interesting. So, let's go into a little bit about, there's different camps when it comes to no such thing as writer's block. I put it out on my Facebook group, the Cops and Writers group, and all of them were like, there's no such thing as writer's block. Oh, that's for wimps. That's for this. And I'm just like, I was kind of surprised, that nobody raised their hand and said, oh yeah, I've experienced it. So who are in these camps? So I see it as 3, and I think it's in your book as well. There's no such thing as writer's block. It's a non-thing, or it's very real, or there's no such thing as writer's block, but in little whispers when nobody's around, they say, yeah, I think I've got it, or I've had it. They don't want to admit it.
Well, there's little whispers too with people who don't have it, but everybody else is going, I have it. And so they don't want to be the one to go, what's wrong with you losers? I don't have writer's block. Yes, I think you've got the 3 camps correct.
So who do you think are in these camps? As far as, is it the majority of writers that are saying, hey, no such thing as writer's block? Or do you have an idea as far as numbers go or percentages?
I don't. It depends on who you define as a writer. So there are a lot of people who aren't writers, they're talkers. They talk about writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So they'll say, I should be writing. I'm not writing. I want to be writing. I would write if I were writing, but I'm not writing. Then there are the professional writers who, I saw this, I think on your post, I was in there for just a couple of minutes. And I think someone said, I have such a schedule that I don't have time. Or didn't someone write something like I post or I publish on Kindle Vella?
Yes.
And I have to write something every day. I don't have the luxury of writer's block because there's a deadline.
You're right. It's interesting. It's in your book. It's like professional writers just write. Yeah. Who would you consider a professional writer?
Whoever wants to be one.
Okay, so they don't have to have 60 books, published.
No, I think the great thing about being a writer is that you can be a writer the minute you say, I am a writer, because who's going to say that you're not?
Okay.
Only you are going to say you're not a writer. Professional writers, now the word professional means you're getting paid for it. So are you getting paid now or later? Well, I haven't written any fiction. I'm a writer, I will be a professional fiction writer when I sell my first book, but I have to do a whole lot before that happens.
See, I didn't consider myself a professional writer until I got paid by a stranger. Not my mom,
Oh,
not a friend.
hey, money's
And
money.
yeah, and it was
Money's
funny.
money. Your mom buys your book, you're professional. I'm just saying.
Okay, for me,
Yeah,
I
don't
was
be so hard. Don't make it so hard to be happy and be successful. People make it very hard, I think. I'm
right.
with you. I'm just teasing you a little bit. But I think people make it really easy to feel miserable and really hard to feel happy.
That's
And
very
if they
true.
would flip that, if you would flip it and say, I'm a professional writer, the minute I say I'm a professional writer, I write, I'm a professional writer, I think I'm a professional writer, and then I sit down and I write because I know that I'm writing something that I don't get paid on until later, because that's what writing is, right? Professional
Yeah,
writers don't get paid instantaneously. You have to
no,
finish something and then you get
absolutely
paid for it. So
correct.
it's just a decision. It's a decision in your mind. You
Now,
can't think about anything else pretty much. I'm a writer, so I'm
yeah,
writing and actually I'm going to get paid for this. That makes me a professional writer. The
okay,
check's delayed, right? It's in the mail. It's coming.
yep.
Yeah.
Even when people are buying it, if you're on Amazon, it takes what 2-3 months to get paid for that month, 2 or 3 months ago. So
Indeed.
yeah, it's not
Indeed.
instant. Somebody doesn't buy, hit the buy button and 5 seconds later it's in your account. It just doesn't
No,
work.
that's only Venmo. That's only if someone
Yes,
Venmo.
that's direct sales, but that could be a whole
Yeah.
other
That
podcast
could be a
altogether.
whole other conversation.
It certainly
Yes.
could.
Yes.
It's not in your book, and I didn't plan on discussing it, but it's kind of a natural segue. And you have a lot of experience. What do you say to people who just have the paralysis of they won't hit that publish button? They have everything done. They had the ARC readers. They delivered a beautiful manuscript. They have it formatted. It's got a great book cover, a great blurb, and they're so petrified to hit that publish button. And I can close my eyes. I can think of a couple people right now that
Mhm.
they wrote some solid books, and like I said, they did everything right, and they're
Yeah.
just so scared. They make excuses like, I have to relook at it. You've been doing that for 3 years. I don't think
It's
it's
a
going to get any better.
self-image. It's a self-image conversation, Patrick.
Man, it's just
It's
so
because
frustrating because I want to help these people.
they have to work on their self-image.
Okay,
And what I mean by that is when you're so worried what others think about you, it's external and there's nothing you can do. I was listening to one of my favorite authors, fiction authors, Tanya Kappas. She's written 180 books.
wow.
And she just said, I don't do negativity. I put positivity out in the world. I'm just doing all the things. And she's like, when someone writes me a message and says, I didn't like your book, she'll just say, well, that book wasn't for you. And if you can detach yourself from your thing, it's really nice to hear. I got good feedback from someone who read my book, this one, the Writer's Block book, that I respect greatly. And he effusively liked it, not just, oh, good job. Right. Not good job, H. Right. But it was like, wow, I'm a professional writer and I'm thinking about writing differently. That really made my day. But it's a thing outside of me. I created the book and it's outside of me. It's not me. So if someone likes or doesn't like your book, it's not something to internalize.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I'm so happy you loved it. But if he had hated it, I would have been like, okay, you hate it. I've had 10 other people read it who really love it. So
Sure.
It's not for everybody. And that's the thing is if people would work on how they feel about themselves, they would not worry what others think about them other than the people that matter.
Sure.
So I talk about this in one of my other books, but it's basically there's the intimate circle. And those are the people who better love you. People that really know you, if they don't like you, that's a problem.
That's very true.
If there's the inner circle or the people who mostly know you, they don't know all the things, they're not with you day in and day out. And then there's everybody else.
Okay.
And so it's not that you can't care about them, it's that you can't care about them. It's like people go, oh, I love you. And I think you're wonderful and amazing. And it's like, you don't know that I'm not a serial killer. You don't know. My public persona is I'm energetic and positive and I write positive books and all those things, but you don't truly know me. So your opinion of your perception of me is positive, and I'm grateful. I don't mean you, Patrick. You and I have known each other a long time, but I'm saying like someone who looks at someone's social media profile and goes, "That's a really great person." It's their perception of that. They don't really know. So if they don't really know, how could they have a real opinion about it?
That's very true. Very
It's
true.
the same thing with cover art. It's the same thing with great writing, right?
Yeah,
It's like
you're
what,
absolutely.
and I'll give you an example that's totally different. I was recording some videos for a course I'm releasing, and there was an audio thing. And my husband is an audio engineer. He has audio engineering training. So he came up and I was letting him listen. And I said, "Does it sound okay?" And he said, "Does it sound okay to you, or does it sound okay to me?" Because we're listening to it differently.
Oh, sure.
Right? So he's listening to it professionally and with all of his years of experience, and I'm listening to it as a civilian. I'm a civilian.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Not a professional listener. So you have to take people's opinions and put them in context. And it's the same thing with your book. And so if I feel like if someone has done all the things and they have a book ready to go, put the book out there. You don't have anything to lose. Some people are going to love it. Some people are going to hate it. It's just a thing that you created. It is not you.
Yeah, that is very true.
It's outside of you. Let that go. Let that go and work on how you feel. How do you feel about it? Do you like it?
Right.
Did you have a good time writing it? Like, I just let go of all that. Like, I know some people are going to go, "There is such a thing as writer's block, and I don't like you, and 1 star." And I'm going to go, "Great, this book was not for you."
Right, right.
Right? I can't do anything about that. I just did it. I had a great time doing it. My intention is pure. It's to help all writers to write poems and screenplays and books and articles and blog posts and anything else that they want to write as easily as they breathe. I want to give people the gift that I have.
Sure.
And if that's not the gift for them to receive, that's okay. That's all good.
There you go. So one of the many things I enjoyed about the book was I like the little quotes from different people. And one that stood out in my mind was, "Writer's block is a fancy term made up by whiners so they can have an excuse to drink alcohol." Steve Martin. I love Steve Martin. Oh,
I love Steve Martin. I love Steve Martin.
You know what? I listened to his audiobook. Oh, what was it? It's his biography. And he narrates it.
Oh, fantastic.
And, you know, not to go totally off track, but I guess I am a little bit, but he started out at Disney World. You know, he grew up in Cali, and he was handing out pamphlets. That was his first job when he was like 11 years old or 12 years old.
I'm writing this down. I need to read Steve Martin's
biography. Oh my God.
I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to get this auto biography.
With him telling it. That's the bomb. And he wanted to be a magician, so he worked his way up to working in the magic store. And you can learn a ton by listening to his biography. And what stuck out in my mind, he had a vision and he worked his ass off. He just worked. Yeah, and he got lucky too. You know, there's an element of luck as well, but we make our own luck. I think I'm a firm believer in that.
That's what one of my mentors used to say. The harder you work, the luckier you get. And I feel exactly the same way. Yep. So
what do you say to writers? You know, you're going to hear sometimes, well, writers are creatives. I need that inspiration to like fall down from the heavens. It's different than being like a laborer, like somebody that does roofs for a living or plumbing or electrician. They don't, thank God, you know, my plumber didn't get plumber block when my sink was messed up, you know, or hey, there's a hole in my roof. God, I hope that roofer doesn't have roofer block. But you know, the argument to that is, well, I'm a creative. How can I? What's your response to that? My response to that is that yes, you are a creative and you would benefit from engineering circumstances to allow space for creativity. Okay. Honestly, how can you be creative if you are not giving yourself think time, if you're not giving yourself artist dates, as Julia Cameron talks about in The Artist Way, if you don't have any white space, if there's no time in the margins, where does the creativity come from? There's a reason why a lot of people will say
They get ideas in the shower. They get ideas from going on a walk or going on a drive, because in those moments, your brain has a chance to just be,
Right.
to just
Right.
reset. It's like when your computer stops working, the first thing they say is close all the windows
Yeah.
and reboot the computer. And that's what meditation does for me. I'm a big meditator because I want to shut my brain down. Like my husband tells me to shut my computer down. Did you shut it down? Yes, honey, I shut it down. I restarted it. Because we are not computers. We are not meant to just keep on going forever. We do need to fill our cups. And so, yes, writers are artists, and artists are creatives. And so we're right back where we started with, how are you filling the well of your creativity? How is that well being filled if it is indeed empty? If it's empty, like mine was empty, I didn't have any creative space because I was using all of my energy for other things. And once I passed through that season, I recognized that, oh, there was still a lot more I wanted to say. I just had taken a break from it.
I'll stop you there.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to realize that? When did that epiphany happen? When did you like, hey, I got more to say? This is just, I'm going through a rough patch or whatever the case may be. And it's, it ain't happening.
I was through it. And I think that's the challenging part is, not my situation, but I have a good friend of mine who went through her dad's end of life. And for a period of time, it was, I got to fix up my dad's house to sell it. I need to make sure my dad has all of his money spent. I'm going to work on the house before work. I'm going to see him on my lunch hour. I'm going to work on the house after work and on the weekends. And for several months, as he was deteriorating, she was just doing everything to keep the wheels on the bus.
Right.
I have a job. I've got to focus on the job. I have a husband. I got to focus on my husband. I need to focus on my dad and what he needs. And there was nothing left. There was no, I'm not working out. I'm not working on my side hustle. I'm just one foot in front of the other. And so when she came through that, there was the recovery time,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how tired and stressed and depleted I was. And then it was, I'm starting to feel like I could focus on these other things again. The same was true for me. So when I made it through the situation, I made a couple of personal decisions that I was going to be at peace with the situation, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Whatever would be. And that once I did that, and then I recovered, I got some sleep and I recovered, I went back to doing the things that fill my cup, to fill my energy cup, right? And then from there, the ideas started to come. And then once the ideas started to come, it was like no time had passed where I always had books in the queue, and I could look back with hindsight and realize there was no writer's block for me in there. I never said, like I said, I never called that out. I just said, well, I'm done writing. I've said all I want to say. All the nonfiction's done. I'm going to switch to fiction. I'm not there yet. And I didn't realize, hindsight being 2020, if someone is not able to write, it could be time block, belief block, or behavior block, or it could be stress, which is its own animal.
That's for sure.
When you recognize that and you can say, oh, I see, I'm not in a place right now where I can be ultimately creative. How can I get to a place where I can be ultimately creative? Or what's the grace I need to give myself so that I can get to the place to be creative?
Okay.
There's some grace involved in it. There's some patience involved in it. And then there's also some truth telling, which is, what is it really?
Right.
And
sometimes we don't want to see that, that's just human nature. That's human nature.
Of course. And so it's asking other people, who would know better than me whether I had any more ideas or not. So there was no one outside of me to say, I think you're probably going to have more books to write. Who would know better than me? I'm the authority. I would go, I don't have any more ideas, Patrick. And you go, okay, that's great. Well, you have a lot of books, Honorée. You're probably right.
I don't think you're ever going to run out of ideas. This is just, my personal opinion is I don't think you ever will.
I think that's right. But if you had asked me a year ago, I would have said, no, I'm totally done with nonfiction.
Oh,
Maybe someday, but I'm good. I'm out.
okay.
Yeah.
Never say never. So in the book, you say, become the writer you've always known you could be. What do you mean by that?
I think we all, if we were being honest with ourselves, have a vision of how we would like it to be and what we know is possible for ourselves if we could just get out of our own way.
Okay.
When I talk to successful writers and I say, when were you this writer
Yeah.
originally? What's the genesis of this person that sits before me today with 25 books or 30 books or
Right.
100 books? And they will say, there was a moment when I had a flash or a vision of what I could be.
Okay.
I think we
So,
all have that.
okay. So become the writer you always known you could be. Who is this chapter for? Who did you have in mind when you wrote this? Or
Every
did you?
single person in the book.
Okay.
Yeah. Every single
Very
person who
cool.
wants to be a writer, who in their soul knows they have words that they want to write and they want to be a writer, whether it's a professional writer or just to get the words out for whatever reason, you have that in you and you know it. And it's time that you, even if it's just you and you don't talk about it, because I have a lot of conversations with people who say, I'm going to tell you my idea. You're the only person I've spoken this idea out loud to, which is such
Okay.
an honor. But
Wow.
they know they could be a writer if they would just give themselves permission and then step out of their own way. That's who this book is for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So in the book, you also say, create a new vision. Could you explain that?
Yes. Create a new vision. If you are holding a vision of having writer's block or holding a vision of, well, I'm going to get to it someday, or I'm not quite there or whatever, like create the vision of what you would want it to be if you woke up and it was in existence. And then just hold that vision. Some people use vision boards, like cut out pictures and
Right.
paste things up. Some people do it on their phone. You can do it on your phone. There are all kinds of fun things. And some people just close their eyes, which I think is the most powerful, and just visualize what is that person, who is that person in the future? Your future Patrick. What future Patrick has how many books written? How much is he earning as an author? What are the other things that he's doing? And work for that guy. Focus on that guy and let him pull you forward.
Very cool. What do you think? And I think I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask anyways. What's the importance of self-talk, and what does yours look like?
Oh, self-talk is almost as important, equally as important or more important than what you're visualizing.
Mm-hmm.
What you say when you talk to yourself is so important. What you utter becomes your outer world. And I have an affirmation that says something like, and now I'm not going to be able to remember it. I say it every day, but it's a single word, thought, and emotion is positive, constructive, beneficial, and specific.
Okay.
Because
So
it has to be, because whatever you're saying is what you're creating. So if you say, I have writer's block, I am blocked, then it's like, oh
then
no.
you're
Yeah.
gonna have it. Yeah, then you're
Yeah.
gonna be
Don't say
paralyzed.
it.
You're right.
Don't say it if you don't want to live it.
You know, here's a quote. One of my favorite quotes of all times is from Bruce Lee. And it's, never speak negatively about yourself, not even in jest. Your body doesn't know you are kidding.
Right.
Words are energy. They can cast spells. Change the way you speak about yourself, and you can change your life. Bruce Lee.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I think that was so. I saw that quote years ago, and I'm just like, holy shit, Bruce is like spot on, man.
Yeah. Preach it, Bruce.
Yeah. So let's take action here. You know, clear the decks, set the stage, the writing stage. You know,
Yeah.
what did you mean by that? When and where you were going to write? Could you kind of dig into that a little bit better?
Yeah, so I don't think just saying there's no such thing as writer's block and you've got to believe you can do it and woohoo, right? I don't think
Right.
that's enough, at least not for me. People expect more substance from me. And clearing the decks to me means like get everything out of the way that you need to set the stage. So what needs to be cleared out? Is it negative thinking? Is it a negative belief? Or is it a project that you need to finish? Like what has to get out of the way in order for you to set the stage, which is another way for me to say engineer the circumstances so that you can write.
Okay, gotcha. So, we were talking about the importance of self-talk and taking, all that kind of stuff. And, you're just talking about setting the stage, you're setting yourself up for success.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
one of the most important things is, taking care of yourself. You have to have a solid base, and I think it's pretty simple. Sleep, eat, and exercise is my mantra. I spoke to a criminology class at college a couple of weeks ago, and it's an intro to criminology. Most of these kids they wanted to be cops, and I'm like, well, you got to dig the well before you're thirsty. You got to start, if you have to take a hard look at yourself, it's like, okay, there's going to be a PT test. Part of that PT test is going to be upper body strength, and there's going to be some cardio. You're going to have to run. So
Yeah.
please don't wait till the night before to start. It's like, hey, I should run around the block a few times, and then
Right.
amazing things are going to happen for me.
Right.
It's yeah. So
If you're showing up for boot camp, why would you show up for boot camp overweight and out of shape? If I knew I was going to do something physical, I would be training like it was my job.
yes.
Right. I would really literally like want to show up and be as fit as the instructors so that I could not be stressed, because there is nothing like running and being out of shape.
Right. And
it's awful.
But nothing else is going to happen in your life positive if you're not sleeping. It's a trickle down effect. If you're not sleeping, if you are eating at McDonald's every day, if you're, if you're completely sedentary, you sit at your desk for 8 hours, then you eat some rotten food, and then you flop on your lazy boy for 4 more hours, binge Netflix, and go to bed. Not great things are going to happen for you. And you don't have to be like a triathlete, you don't have to whatever, but be cognizant of that. For me, I worked midnight to 8 for 13 years. I gained almost 30 pounds. It was the feeling of being hungover without the fun of the night before. It was a perpetual
probably hangover. All the time, right?
Yes, all the time. I went to a shift where I could sleep, and before I knew it, I dropped like 20-30 pounds. I was doing workouts like I was before, but it was just a different pitch. It was a different feeling, and I was getting results like crazy. And it's like, wow, all I had to do was prepare my meals. I wasn't eating out as much, and I was sleeping like a solid 7 to 8 hours a day. And wow. And I was exercising. I was doing the same exercises, but it just felt so different. But if you don't have that base, I don't think the rest can really fall into place. And sometimes writers really fall into that trap, don't they?
Yes, I think sleep is a success strategy, and I have a lot of emphasis on sleep, and I have a lot of people make fun of me for my bedtime and my awake time, but you can't argue with results. And ultimately,
what is your bedtime and your awake time?
I think last night I was asleep by 8:40. I woke up at 3:30 this morning.
Holy cow.
I normally get up at 4:30, but here's the thing: when you're happy and you love what you're doing, you need less rest, and your sleep quality is better, and your production quality is better. And so it's not always that early. Sometimes it's as late as 9:30 or 10, but I still get up at 4:30.
Okay.
And so sometimes I have to take a disco nap in the middle of the day.
Okay.
To really function optimally. I can do really well on 7.5 hours. 7.5 hours is awesome.
Well, I think everybody knows their like zone.
Everybody knows their zone. Yep.
Yeah, everybody kind of knows that sweet spot when it comes to sleep. And when I was talking about food, it's like, pack your lunch. It's cheaper. And gas, I can't tell you how many gas station dinners I've had. Yeah, because it was the only thing open in the middle of the night. Right. Or, fast food.
It's engineering circumstances. It's setting the stage. How will you perform at your highest? You're a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. You're not
A
an
Yugo?
old junker,
I'm not a
right?
Yugo. Yeah.
They're not a Yugo.
Right.
But yet people feed themselves and treat themselves like a Yugo, and they want sports car performance. And
Right.
sports cars are high maintenance. In
Very
order to
true.
be high performance, you have to be high maintenance, and you have to put bumpers around and arms around high performance. It's going to cost more. It's going to take more effort, but the results are going to speak for themselves, because no one says, I want to go on the Autobahn in my Yugo and see how it works. Like I want the highest performance possible.
Sure.
So you can't, and you have to put, when you buy a new car, they say, this is the type of gasoline that goes in this car. Don't put in regular unleaded. Put in the good stuff.
Right.
Because if you put in the crappy gas, you're going to get crappy performance. And yet people put crappy gas in themselves and they go, why am I tired? Why am I overweight? Why am I sluggish? Why am I not creative? And it seems like we're just talking about how to just be successful in general. Well, we are. But we're also talking about how to be successful as a writer, because your brain uses 25% of your energy.
Mm.
So you have to actually fuel yourself. You have to fuel, hydrate, and rest as a high performance vehicle, because you are a high performance vehicle, or you're at least expecting high performance out of your vehicle. And yet you might be giving it the minimum it needs to just not die.
Right.
So,
You know, and
I
I
need
will
to
say,
be in congruence with one another.
and I will say to anybody that's listening to this, that, you know, it's like, hey, I've got a 6-month at home. I'm working 10 hours a day. You do the best with what you got.
That's
And
right. That's right. It's a season. If you're in that
right.
season, it's a season, but do the best you can. And preparation sure does make a difference. It's the reason
It
why
does.
bodybuilders food prep.
Oh,
They make meals
absolutely.
on Sunday so that they don't have to make a bad decision. You don't go to the gas station for a meal because you already have a container of food.
Right.
You already
Yeah.
have a bottle of water ready to drink.
Yeah. You know, it's
Yeah.
like when I was on late shifts, I survived on Red Bull and Coke or Pepsi or Mountain Dew. And I was drinking probably about 4 or 5 cans or bottles a night. And then finally one day I was just like, okay, that's enough. And I don't drink coffee. I know, weird cop that doesn't drink coffee. And I would have to start out with either a Red Bull or something with caffeine in it to start out my day. And starting your day was at midnight. And after that, I would just buy a huge thing of water. And that's all I would drink the rest of the night.
Okay.
And boy, did I feel better. And, you know,
Yeah.
it sounds weird. You know, it's like, well, because these guys are, and I still see it, you know, if you have any interaction with cops that are working, you know, third shift, if you're going by their squad or whatever, a lot of times you're going to see a ginormous can of energy drink, you know, like Monster.
Well, how else would you get through the day? And also you
Right.
have other stuff, like they're not dads or husbands. They don't not have other things that have to be done
Right.
during the day. So if you're working the third shift and then you have to sleep the first shift, the banks are not open during the second shift, everybody. They're closed. So there are things you have to do. I'm so grateful for your service and anyone who serves in uniform so that I can write at my leisure. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah,
but I have to say, now I want to go watch the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey, where he's like,
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
And then like he's just face down, right?
That's
he
hilarious.
Ahead and then he's like
yes,
face down, but he's like red ball.
Yep. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, that is funny. But yeah, you know, for like you said, I haven't thought about it as seasons, and it is. You know, when you're in the middle of it, like I said, you have a colicky kid, you know, you're a mom or a dad, you know,
season.
yeah, and it's not forever. You know, so if you're listening to this and you're in that season, good luck to you. You know, party on. You can push through it. You can do it. Do the best with what you got.
Write a paragraph today. Write a paragraph. If you write 365 paragraphs this year, you'll have a book, or 250 paragraphs. You'll have just write one paragraph. Do what you can do in the season that you're in today, knowing that someday your kids will be grown. They'll be out of the house.
That's very true.
You'll have all the freedom.
Now, one of the things in your book that popped out at me, one of the many things, was discipline to write. What do you mean by that? Explain that.
It's doing it when you want to do it and doing it when you don't want to do it.
That's
It
perfect.
probably sounds like I just can't wait to get up at 4 o'clock every morning and sit down at the keyboard and write. And most of the time that's true. But there are a lot of times that's not true. I was out late. I don't feel good. I have stress. I'm cranky. I'm sick. And I know when to not write. And I know when I need to just shut up my inner, you can sleep in. You don't have to do it. You can take today off.
The little devil on your shoulder,
Right
just
today.
whispering in your ear, Honorée.
Yeah. Lazy Honorée is like,
Yes.
go, you have books you want to read. You can read them. Go read them. But future Honorée is like, hey, get in the chair.
One of my favorite books is Discipline Equals Freedom by
Yes, it does.
Jocko Willing.
Yeah.
And
that's right. He is right.
One of the chapters was, if you're going to procrastinate about something or put off something, put off not doing something that day.
Put off putting it off. Do it.
Yeah.
Not do it later.
You don't feel like writing for a half an hour. Okay. Force yourself to do it that day. And if you feel the same way the day after, then you can take it off.
That's right.
I guarantee
I go to the gym if I don't want to go to the gym. If I'm perfectly healthy. I'm not saying go to the gym when you're sick or whatever. Right. But there are days when I just go, I would rather not take this hour and a half of travel time and of effort. I can do so much in an hour and a half. My to-do list is unending. Let me just take this hour and a half. But I perform optimally on endorphins. As a matter of fact, woe to the person that connects with me right about 8 a.m. in the morning, because I'm all like, woo! Every day I'm all fired up in endorphins. And my husband is not a morning person. He's a night owl. And so I avoid him between like 8 and 10 in the morning because he's just like, no, shh. I'm just waking up. Leave me alone. Because our schedules are on opposite. So he knows if he comes and talks to me about something at 9 p.m., I'm going to look at him like Grumpy Cat and probably say something like, this isn't my time of day. I left you alone this morning. You leave me alone right now and everyone will be fine. But I know that staying in that discipline and putting in the words, putting in the time equals the results that I want.
Right.
It's just simply a matter of saying yes to what you want later instead of yes to what you want right now.
Yeah. And you don't have to be a former Navy SEAL or some special operator to do this. Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. You just have to put your mind to it. And you have put your mind to things before and been successful, and it's building that muscle.
Right. And for me, I look at other people that are more successful than myself, not to, it's like, I don't want to compare myself as like, oh man, she's making, 7 figures, and here I am scraping by or whatever. I don't do that, but I do look at mentors, and I consider you a mentor, and, writers that are a lot more prolific than I am or have a different degree of success. But again, I always go back to the gym. It's like, I remember I was in a little bit of a funk and I'm feeling tired, and there was a cop that was hit by a car. He was thrown 50 feet or 75 feet in the air.
Oh my gosh.
And he was dead. He was dead on the scene. His heart stopped. Thank God there was another cop there that was also a paramedic. He started chest compressions, got him, he jump started him, got him back going again. And he broke his hip and his femur. They had to put a metal rod down his femur in his leg. And he was back in the gym in less than 2 months. He's literally dragging his leg behind him. And he's like, I can still do upper body stuff. I mean, he wasn't 100% healed. He was dead a couple of months ago, less than a couple of months ago. But it was so important for him to get back into that. And, then I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I'm a little bit sore. I pulled this or that. And I'm like, okay, I'm a big baby. I need to suck it up. It's like, all right. And
some people can't do it. Like 2 things. You get to go to the gym you get to, I don't
Right.
have to go. I get to go. I have the money to go. I
Mm.
have the transportation to go. I have the gym membership to go, and I have the health to go. So check, 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 check. Also, I have good tunes or a good audiobook. So I've
Right.
made it that I enjoy not being on the treadmill or lifting. I enjoy the time because I'm doing something else that I enjoy while I'm doing something that I will enjoy that I've done it. Right.
Right. And
So,
like,
but then the other thing is you get to be a writer. There are some people that just they cannot write.
that's true.
They're not writers. They don't have the desire to write. They don't have the skill to write. They don't have the talent to write, or they haven't developed their talent. And you have the desire and you have the ability to do it. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be a professional writer, to be paid for your writing. So you get to do that. Lean into that as opposed to the whatever the other stuff is.
Okay. So
Yeah.
let's wrap this up. Any final words out there for our fine folks that are listening?
Well, you didn't ask me about creating an alter ego, which I thought you
Oh,
might
please
talk
do.
about.
I want to hear that. Go ahead.
Well, you read the book. So what was
Yes.
your perception of that section? And so just so you all know, I write about creating an alter ego. When all else fails, do what J-Lo did and become J-Lo, or Sasha Fierce for Beyonce. Like, very successful people sometimes put on a separate personality in order to get themselves to show up in a way that's uncomfortable for their natural selves. So you read the section, Patrick. Do you have, or is Sarge your alter ego?
That's funny you mentioned that, because in my like circle of friends, nobody else is a writer. Nobody else like does anything. Nobody has a podcast. Nobody's a writer. Like in my circle of like cop friends that are still
Yeah.
active duty or retired, and I can smoke and joke with the best of them and talk about old cop stuff and solving world problems and doing what we do, and
Yeah.
I barely ever talk about that. But then I feel like I do have an alter ego. It's like, hey, I have to be in bed by a certain time tonight because I've got a interview Honoree and I want to make sure that it's spot on. So creating Bruce Wayne and Batman, that's what I
Yeah.
thought of. It's like not a
Yeah.
bad idea.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea, especially if you can't get yourself to take action. It's like you can send in your persona and let them do the performing.
That is cool. Yeah,
And
I
that
did
would be
see that.
sometimes being a writer. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything else you want to bring up before we close this up?
I don't think so. I think we've done a great job. And as always, visiting with you is a pleasure.
Oh,
And I'm
it's
really looking forward to seeing you at $20. That's going to be fantastic.
I know it's Vegas, so going to bed at 3
Vegas.
in the morning, that's usually
That's
when you're
not
coming
me. I will
home.
not, I will not, I will not
Getting
do
up at
that.
3 o'clock. You'll be getting up at 3 a.m.,
I
huh?
will, I will, I will not be on my schedule that week, but I will
Right.
not be far off of my schedule just because I will get tired.
Yeah. And, like what we were talking about before, my sleep pattern is going to be disrupted. My eating is going to be disrupted. My exercise program is going to be disrupted, but that's just going to be a little season. That's just going to be a little micro season.
It is. It's 3 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 4 nights and 5 days of debauchery,
And fun.
hugging,
Yeah.
conversations, ideas, synergy, and then back to the real world.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's going to
So
be fantastic.
No Such Thing as Writer's Block goes live October 23rd. I read it. I loved it. I highly suggest it. It's very easily consumed like all of your nonfiction books. Your last few I really enjoyed reading. And we're talking before I recorded this, I have dyslexia. I probably have ADHD. I have the alphabet soup of freaking disorders probably when it comes to this stuff. And if I can breeze through it pretty quick, anybody can't. Excuse me. So
Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you so much for your kind words and for taking the time to read the book, especially so fast. Like, I sent it to you, you read it. We're doing this interview and you're a great interviewer. You've got a great following. You're really an example for people who are in traditional jobs or do serve and they have this itch to write. You are that person. It's like, I'm a retired police officer, and now I'm a fiction writer. It's very cool. I love the example that you set, and I love how you're encouraging that community of people, even as you're encouraging a writer community.
Thank you very much. That means a lot coming from you, Honoree.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out more about you and your books, where do they go?
HonoreeCorder.com and anywhere books are sold.
Very good. Well, again, thank you so much. And we'll see you in November in Vegas.
Yes, sir. Thank you.